I really commend you two for giving that support system to each other and now giving that support system to others. But to even complicate a little bit more, before I go into the retreats, you decided to unschool your kids.
Yes.
And so you're homeschooling. So that adds a whole nother layer of complexity. But for those parents out there, because I remember I had this discussion recently with Jedediah Bila, who was on and said she's thinking about homeschool. Like a lot of people are doing that now. And you're doing it to the degree of, unschooling, as you say, and I want you to define that, but doing it in the wilderness of Alaska, which is super cool. Tell us about that, like what that journey has been like, taking your kids out of public school and then, doing this homeschooling and doing it in nature.
Well, for me, I've never been happy with the public school system.
Yeah.
I was raised in it.
Right.
I never had any real encouragement or support that I personally felt in a way that I needed it for myself. When I was growing up and going through the school system, they just pushed me through. I was just another kid, and I had different ways of learning. I had my own way, and a lot of it didn't seem to fit in with what the public school system curriculum and structure was set up for. And so, after having my own children and putting them in public school and finding out that I'm getting letters from, the principal saying that we're breaking a law because our kid hasn't attended enough school days when she was sick, or we had other more exciting plans, like taking a trip to go do something and do our own, field trip, and, choosing to do, what we felt as parents were, more beneficial than what the school could offer. It never sat well with me. And I always knew that there was a better way, and parents are the best teachers of the kids, of our own children. We know we know what works best in our family for our family structure, but ultimately, every child is different. Every one of them, it learns differently, and to put them in this boxed in system, that is our government school system, is just not what we feel is best for our children. And so, we decided that allowing our kids to actually decide what they want to learn and what interests them, instead of telling them what they have to be learning every day, is truly what we think is best for our kids to open themselves up to be able to absorb what it is this world has to offer, and what their passions, what their desires, and what their interests are.
Yeah. So I know personally, I went to regular, public school too. Was really, school was always really easy for me. I didn't have to study. I didn't have to do anything. I just made it through, but I didn't like it. And I started college really early, which was my thing. But then I had that mindset that I had to get A's. I had to go to college early. I had to do all these things and then follow this structure of how things worked in the world and blah, blah, blah. But I had debilitating anxiety, and then I see in my daughter, my oldest, she's much like me, and for her school was super stressful because she's, having to get A's and all of this. And, it was pretty miserable for her. She socially was fine. She enjoyed school, different aspects of it. But when it came to grades and things like that, it was just mental health was not in a great space. And since taking them out of school, really once we took them out of school, we realized we got to know a whole different side of them than we did before, because we were
sending them off.
They were gone for so long. And so it was really cool to be able to spend a lot of time just getting to know our kids in that aspect. And so by what we do for unschooling is that they're definitely learning. It's just learning looks different. We look at the interests of each of the kids and we let them kind of lead the way with how they want to learn. So for example, all of our kids are voracious readers. They love reading.
Which we have 5 of.
We have 5 kids and they just love reading. And so right now they're working on learning all about the Eastern Hemisphere because they're really into like China and like the Asian cultures. So they're learning through all of these books they're reading, and they read like a couple novels a week, and they're just like digging through, like they soak up information like that. And one of our kiddos, he's the only extrovert in a house full of introverts, and he loves acting and theater. So he's like in theater and acting classes, and most of his, books are all about, like things like that. But he's also our spiritual guru. So he's a very interesting kiddo. He's a Gemini. He's all over. And then we have a fashion designing, like artsy, self-taught dressmaker in the house. We've got Joss. My daughter Joss is the oldest, but she loves reading and all things history and old the stuff. She plays the saxophone, and now she's in hockey. I mean, these kids are like very much like engaged in learning. It's just they don't have to sit in a school building all day. We can go outside, and then we take them outside and learn in nature as much as possible. So getting them out on the trails and outside, doing survival skills and like real life stuff, and creating businesses. They all are learning how to create their own businesses. And, whether or not they go to college doesn't matter, as long as they're happy and they have the skills. And if they are working as kids to understand the concepts of how to build a business, or like watching what we're doing, like I don't have any fear for them. They are happy. Their anxiety has diminished. They're like doing awesome. And our 13-year-old girls, we have 2 13-year-old girls, and they get along great, and they're extremely like
every single
happy.
One of our kids is extremely different. And, to see a kid in a classroom with 30 other individuals, like how can we expect every one of those kids to really like enjoy their time there, to really absorb what they're being taught, and you send your kid off to school in the morning, and then they come back home in the day, at the end of the day, and they're just exhausted and wiped out. And, they're expected to do homework and follow through and have tests and all of these things that is like thrown onto these like young people. And we're already placing all of this immense amount of stress on our kids by putting them into these situations. And so by unschooling them, we're removing all of that and allowing them to make the decisions that they feel is right for them in their, journey of growth and learning and taking in the world as they see is best for them. We have some kids that are, a couple of our kids are, in like occupational therapy, they have things that they need, a little bit of help with here. We have some kids that are, going to see counselors, and, they have other aspects that, we're able to recognize things with our kids and help place them and give them tools to help them, work with their own lives. And if we're putting them in school all the time and allowing other people to make decisions for them, and they're not able to make decisions for themselves, that I think is a big detriment to all children.
Listen, I'm not going to knock anyone's decision when it comes to their own children. That is the parents' decision to do what they do. But if you showed me a case study of what, you're experiencing, and you saw the other side, where I do see so many of my friends' children that just, play all day on their, phones, basically, are really, really disconnected from nature, go to school and become very stressed out, as you said, like start to have issues that show up very early. I would say, listen, the case study here shows this is probably the smarter route. I get it. It's probably not the easier route. I'm sure you guys could say, like, being there and having to be so involved during the day while running a company, while doing all these things is not easy. But is it in the best interest of your children? I mean, that's a question you have to ask, and everyone needs to make a different decision there. But from what I'm hearing, it's like, it's a really interesting concept, this unschooling, because you hear of homeschooling and it's just like, all right, but the unschooling, I agree, because in medicine, I was always told this by my father, you had to deprogram yourself from what they taught you in a sense. You still took it, right? It's not like you just threw it away, what you were taught in school, just like he didn't throw away what he learned in conventional medicine. It's a wonderful added piece, but you got to move beyond that, deprogram that this is everything and it's only this, and move and evolve, right?
It's literally, there's the process of unschooling is deschooling. It's like, for a minute,
had to do that ourselves.
You get caught up and you're like, wait, we're failing our kids because now they wouldn't be able to pass this test. Well, that test is arbitrary. Does that test, but I mean, and it's the same thing, like in building in having to like leave my squishy nursing jobs to do all of this. You're giving up, like, you're having to deprogram what society has told us. Like, society says you grow up, you get a job, you do this, you have a benefit, you have these benefits, and you create a retirement plan. And then that's that, right? Like that's the program. But like, so we had to deprogram ourselves too. And I know, like, when Ben quit his job, like, you definitely felt that, like, oh, holy cow, what am I doing? And it was just like this deprogramming of like society. You're unplugging from the matrix of like, whoa.
I think, you build a good case for parents and people who are thinking about this to really contemplate, to say, is that the right? And for you, it obviously seems so far that it was. So, kudos to you guys for doing that and taking that on.